The mystery of Blair Adams. On the morning of the 11th of July, 1996, the mystery surrounding Blair Adams reached its tragic conclusion when his lifeless body was discovered in a parking lot in Knoxville, Tennessee. He was only 31 years old. His clothing was scattered, his body showed signs of a severe struggle, and yet his valuables, thousands of dollars in cash, gold, platinum, jewelry, and personal belongings, lay untouched around him. The scene made it immediately clear that this was not a robbery. Instead, it appeared that Blair had met the violent end he had been desperately trying to outrun. His journey had begun days earlier in Surrey, British Columbia, over 2,600 miles away, after he suddenly abandoned his job, withdrew large sums of money, emptied his safe deposit box, and fled without warning. Robert Dennis Blair Adams, known simply as Blair to friends and family, was born on the 28th of December, 1964. His early life remains sparsely documented, though it is known that he grew up in Surrey with his mother Sandra and eventually with a stepfather who operated a construction company called SS Cedar Homes. Blair worked for the company as a foreman, spending time both in Canada and in Germany. Those who knew him described him as friendly, hard-working, and optimistic, though he had quietly struggled with substance use in the past. By 1996, he had been sober for 2 years, but he had recently stopped attending support meetings and appeared increasingly anxious in the weeks before his passing. His behavior puzzled and frightened those close to him. As summer approached, Blair confided in several people that he believed someone wanted to harm him. He refused to name who he feared, but his distress was unmistakable. He told his mother that cruel rumors were being spread about him, but he would not say by whom. He hinted to his girlfriend that former co-workers who had recently returned from Germany might be upset with him, but again, he would not provide details. His mother recalled that he was not sleeping and seemed burdened by something he could not bring himself to explain. It became evident to everyone that Blair was terrified of a threat that he could not, or would not, describe. On the 5th of July, Blair cleaned out his safe deposit box and withdrew several $1,000s from his accounts. He carried gold bars, coins, jewelry, and wads of cash as he attempted to flee Canada. His first attempt to enter the United States was via ferry from Victoria, but officials stopped him after noticing the large amounts of money he carried and discovering his record of assault and drug-related charges from years earlier. Authorities suspected him of being a courier, and he was turned away. Undeterred, Blair quit his job the next day and demanded his final paycheck. He then attempted to cross the border again on foot on the 9th of July. This attempt too ended abruptly when he was detained because he matched the description of a man who had recently abandoned a stolen vehicle nearby. He had unexplained scratches on his hands and legs, but he was released when evidence failed to link him to the theft. Finally, on the 10th of July, Blair succeeded. He rented a Nissan Altima, drove to the border, and crossed without issue. Once in Seattle, he impulsively purchased a round-trip ticket to Frankfurt, Germany, but within hours, he changed his mind, returned the ticket, and claimed the person he wanted to visit was ill. According to his girlfriend, she knew nothing about this supposed visit. Instead, Blair bought a one-way ticket to Washington, D.C., arriving early in the morning and immediately renting a Toyota Camry. By that afternoon, he had been involved in a minor collision after reversing into another driver. The motorist later recalled that Blair seemed pleasant, but extremely agitated. That evening, Blair arrived in Knoxville, Tennessee. By 5:30 in the afternoon, he was at a gas station seeking help because he could not unlock his car. Gerald Sapp, a wrecker service driver, quickly realized the problem. Blair was trying to use the Nissan key from Seattle on the Toyota he had rented in Washington, D.C. Sapp helped arrange a tow truck and drove Blair to the nearby Fairfield Inn. Surveillance footage from the hotel showed him pacing, looking over his shoulder, walking in and out repeatedly, and appearing deeply distressed. After almost 40 minutes of erratic behavior, he rented a room. Yet when the clerk attempted to give him his change, Blair walked out abruptly at 7:37 in the evening, never returning to enter the room he had paid for. Roughly 12 hours later, at 7:30 in the morning on the 11th of July, construction workers found Blair's body in a parking lot across the highway from the hotel. The condition of the scene shocked investigators. Blair's pants were removed and turned inside out, his shoes were off, and various currencies, Canadian, American, and German, were strewn around him. His fanny pack containing gold, platinum, jewelry, keys, and valuables was untouched. His passport and identification were present. Nothing of value had been taken. Blair had sustained severe injuries. His head showed trauma likely caused by a heavy object such as a club or crowbar, and a powerful strike to his abdomen had ruptured his stomach, causing sepsis. He had defensive wounds and abrasions, and some of his hair had been forcefully removed. In his stomach were remnants of a recent meal, meat, shrimp, and lettuce. His bloodwork revealed nothing suspicious. One of his shoes was placed beneath his head like a pillow. In his hand was a single long strand of hair, likely from his assailant. The autopsy also noted signs of anal penetration, though it remained unclear when this occurred or whether it was linked to the motive for the attack. Investigators considered a possible sexual motive, but no usable DNA was identified. 3 years later, Blair's mother hesitantly acknowledged that he had previously been involved romantically with a male roommate, though she did not expand on the matter. The case remained painfully unresolved. In 2010, the Knoxville Police Department stated that they had never received a credible tip. One officer described the mystery as the most unusual case of his entire 38-year career. In 2017, during a phone interview, Blair's mother claimed for the first time that her son had intended to travel to Atlanta for the upcoming Summer Olympics, beginning on the 19th of July. She provided no evidence for this late revelation, and she had never told authorities. After making the claim, she abruptly ended the call. Blair's stepfather also expressed frustration at renewed attention to the case. Sandra Edwards passed away in 2020. To this day, the baffling journey of Blair Adams, a man who desperately fled from a danger known only to himself, remains one of the most haunting, unexplained mysteries in modern history. The strange case of Henry Frantz Jr. The story of Henry Frantz Jr., a beloved figure in the Atlanta area, took a heartbreaking and deeply mysterious turn in March 2024. Frantz, aged 74, known widely for his talent with the bagpipes and as a founding member of the Atlanta Pipe Band, passed away during a scuba diving excursion in Hawaii. The news of his sudden passing shocked many in his community, especially those who had admired his music and spirit for decades, but what followed in the days after his departure would leave his family stunned and raise even more questions. On March 16th, just 6 days after his passing, family members arrived at Frantz's home in Decatur, Georgia, to begin organizing his belongings and handling his personal affairs. The property, located about 15 miles outside of Atlanta, had long been a private and quiet place. As the family sorted through the items left behind, they ventured into the backyard, where Frantz had built a wooden treehouse years earlier. What they found inside was both shocking and heartbreaking. The skeletal remains of Frantz's son, Henry Doyle Frantz, who had been missing for over 4 years. Henry Doyle was 28 years old when he was last seen, and for years his absence had been a source of confusion and quiet sorrow for the family. The discovery of his remains inside the treehouse, located on his father's own property, added a new and deeply emotional layer to an already difficult time. The DeKalb County Medical Examiner's Office began an immediate investigation into the circumstances surrounding the discovery, and while no foul play is currently suspected, the mystery of how Henry Doyle came to be in the treehouse remains. Frantz Jr., described by his daughter as a deeply curious and active man, had lived alone since 2018, following the passing of his second wife. Though loved by many, his family said visits had become rare in recent years, with most relatives living out of state. The solitude of the home may have contributed to the delay in discovering the younger Frantz's whereabouts, a reality that has left the family with more questions than answers. In the wake of both losses, the Atlanta community came together to honor Frantz Jr.'s legacy. As a performer, he had shared his music at countless events, from weddings and funerals to cultural celebrations and historic commemorations. The Atlanta Pipe Band, which he helped found and sustain for more than 5 decades, paid tribute to his passion and dedication, describing his influence as immeasurable. Frantz had performed for figures such as Presidents Carter and Bush, Prince Charles, and the Dalai Lama. Friends and fellow musicians like Leonard E. Wood remembered him not just for his musical talent, but for his adventurous spirit and commitment to discovery. Frantz was an attorney by profession, but it was his love of exploration, through music, travel, fossils, and scuba diving that defined him in the hearts of many. Though his passing and the discovery of his son have left lingering sorrow, the memory of Henry Frantz Jr. continues to echo in the sound of bagpipes across Atlanta and beyond. A life remembered for its vibrancy, complexity, and the quiet mysteries it left behind. What happened to Suchir Balaji? The mysterious case surrounding the final days of Suchir Balaji continues to raise questions, as his family remains convinced that the circumstances surrounding his passing do not align with the official narrative. A promising tech professional and whistleblower, Balaji had recently made headlines for speaking out against the practices behind the development of advanced AI models, including ChatGPT. Just hours before his untimely end, he appeared calm, collected, and even cheerful, as seen in surveillance footage captured on the evening of November 22, 2023. At 7:30 in the evening, Balaji was seen exiting the elevator in his San Francisco apartment building, walking with ease toward the entrance to collect a takeout order. He returned moments later, food in hand, dressed casually in jeans, trainers, and a sweater, with music playing through wireless earbuds. This moment, his last known appearance, was uneventful at first glance. However, for his family, it signaled that everything seemed normal in his life at the time. His demeanor, body language, and the casual nature of the interaction all indicated someone simply settling down for a quiet evening. That same day, he had been in contact with his father, sharing stories about a recent birthday trip to Catalina Island. The two had discussed upcoming plans and reminisced about his holiday, with no apparent distress or indication that anything was amiss. Earlier footage from that afternoon showed him arriving home from the trip, carrying his luggage and walking through the same lobby. In both videos, his mother, Purnima Ramarao, points out, he appeared relaxed and entirely at ease. Balaji's family grew concerned when they hadn't heard from him in several days, prompting a welfare check on November 26th. Authorities discovered him in his apartment, having passed away under circumstances officially described as self-inflicted. Yet the conclusion drawn by the medical examiner and local police has not sat well with his loved ones. The presence of certain substances in his system, including alcohol and GHP, added complexity to the official findings. Still, his family maintains that these details don't align with the character and mental state of the person they knew. Adding to the family's unease are gaps in the building's security system. According to Ramarao, key surveillance cameras in the garage, elevators, and neighboring areas were not functioning at the time. The building's access records indicated that no one else entered Balaji's fourth-floor apartment during the critical time frame. The apartment windows, situated stories above street level, were fitted with restrictors, making them inaccessible as points of entry or exit. The front door, according to investigators, showed no signs of tampering. While the autopsy report provided by the Chief Medical Examiner's office reaffirmed that no evidence pointed toward outside involvement, Balaji's parents continue to believe that the circumstances were more complicated. His mother, in particular, has spoken out passionately, suggesting that her son may have been targeted because of the sensitive information he had shared about emerging artificial intelligence technologies. A month prior, Balaji had publicly raised concerns about the methods used in AI model training and the broader implications for internet safety and digital ethics. To those closest to him, Suchir Balaji was not only a brilliant mind in the tech world, but also someone full of life, optimism, and plans for the future. His sudden and unexplained departure has left an emotional and intellectual void that cannot be filled by reports or official statements alone. The questions surrounding the final moments of his life continue to linger, and for his family, the search for truth is far from over. As investigations are closed and files archived, they hold on to hope that one day, more clarity will emerge about what really happened to their son in those final hours. The mystery of Emily Wolfe. The disappearance of 34-year-old Emily Wolfe in rural Utah has grown more concerning as authorities now confirm that her cell phone has become inactive, signaling a troubling development in the ongoing investigation. Wolfe was last seen on March 31st in northern San Juan County, a sparsely populated region in southeastern Utah. According to the San Juan County Sheriff's Office, Wolf may have been traveling toward the highland area of Utah in a 2020 grey Defender side-by-side vehicle. Law enforcement officials shared on social media that Wolf had recently mentioned two possible destinations, a job opportunity in Alaska and a desire to visit North Carolina. Her comments have complicated the search as authorities attempt to determine her intended route and final destination. The sudden loss of phone contact, announced 2 weeks after her disappearance, has significantly hindered tracking efforts. Her cell phone being turned off or no longer operational eliminates a vital lead in locating her and raises fears about her safety. Wolf is described as standing 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighing approximately 120 pounds. She has brown eyes and brown hair highlighted with blonde streaks. Notably, she has several distinguishing tattoos, including script designs on her right forearm and left wrist, and a map of Vietnam tattooed on one of her ankles. These identifiers have been shared widely in the hopes that someone may recognize her or provide useful information to authorities. The strange case of Elizabeth O'Prey. Elizabeth O'Prey's disappearance in the rugged wilderness of Australia's Blue Mountains remains one of the region's most perplexing and tragic mysteries. The 77-year-old woman, known for her independent spirit and gentle demeanor, was reported missing on a Monday night after her concerned family members realized she had not returned home. Elizabeth, often called Betty by those who knew her, lived in Medlow Bath, a small village perched near the highest point of the Blue Mountains, west of Sydney. What began as a routine search quickly evolved into a large-scale rescue operation, as authorities, volunteers and residents mobilized in the hopes of bringing her home safely. Days into the search, there was a moment of hope. A resident in the Megalong Valley reported hearing cries for help around 6:45 in the evening on Friday. When police began searching the nearby 6-foot track, a popular hiking trail, they too heard the desperate calls echoing through the valley. This spurred renewed energy into the search, which then focused on the area around Peckman's Plateau and the Faribular Lookout, south of Katoomba. Inspector Sonia Tabor, leading the operation, described the terrain as treacherous, with dense bushland and steep cliffs making it extremely challenging to navigate. She explained that voices can carry unusually far in such environments, complicating the task of pinpointing the source of the cries. Despite the deployment of over 90 volunteers, police personnel, aerial searches via the Polair helicopter, and ground support from trail bikes, locating Elizabeth proved nearly impossible in such an unforgiving landscape. Adding to the urgency was the fact that Elizabeth was known to take stroke medication, which in some individuals can cause confusion. The concern was that she might be disoriented and unable to retrace her steps or provide an accurate location. On Tuesday evening, roughly 24 hours after she was first reported missing, rescuers managed to contact her via her mobile phone. She was reportedly calm and said she was all right, but admitted she was lost and unable to describe her location. That brief communication became the last confirmed contact with her. The search effort was temporarily halted on Friday evening due to worsening weather conditions, but resumed the following day. Local residents, moved by the situation, rallied together to support the operation. Sylvia Swords, a member of the community, told news outlets that although the disappearance was heartbreaking, everyone understood how difficult the terrain made the search. At the height of the operation, hundreds of volunteers gave their time and energy, determined to bring Elizabeth back to her family. Despite these efforts, Elizabeth O'Prey was never found. At an inquest held in February in Katoomba, the coroner reviewed the circumstances surrounding her disappearance. The court heard how police had made contact with her by phone, but she had been unable to provide details about her location. She was last believed to be wearing an olive-coloured jacket, jeans, and black shoes. Described as thin, with short grey hair, and of Caucasian appearance, Elizabeth was a familiar face in her neighbourhood. Her case left a deep mark on the community. Inspector Tabor publicly acknowledged the overwhelming support of the volunteers and highlighted the selflessness that had defined the search. The dedication shown during those crucial days following Elizabeth's disappearance is remembered by those who participated, even though their efforts did not bring the outcome they had hoped for. Today, the story of Elizabeth O'Prey remains an unresolved chapter in the history of the Blue Mountains. With no conclusive evidence to explain what happened to her, her fate remains a mystery. Her family continues to seek answers, and the memory of a resilient woman lost in the wilderness still echoes among the trees where voices once called out, hoping she might be found. The mystery of Brenda K. Green. Brenda departed from her family's residence in Brookwood, Alabama on July 2, 1988, and never returned. Her disappearance has remained one of Alabama's enduring mysteries, leaving behind decades of unanswered questions and heartbreak for those who loved her. That day, Brenda had told her mother she was planning to visit friends in Abernant, a small community roughly 10 miles northeast of her home. Accompanied by a male friend, she set off with every intention of returning later that evening. What unfolded instead has haunted her family and community for over 3 decades. Brenda was last confirmed to be at a house located directly across the street from Hosmer's Grocery on Highway 216 in Abernant. Her male friend had dropped her off at this location, expecting she would be meeting with other friends. However, those friends were not at the house, and rather than wait with her, her companion left her standing alone on the doorstep. The only further contact Brenda had was a phone call to her mother at around 9:30 in the evening, during which she explained she wouldn't be home until later. That call was the last known trace of her. After that moment, Brenda seemed to vanish into thin air. Initially, authorities believed Brenda had simply run away. She had a history of leaving home, but in each prior instance, she had returned relatively quickly. Her family, too, may have hoped this was just another brief absence, but as time passed and no signs of her emerged, that hope began to fade. Investigators gradually began to suspect that her disappearance was not voluntary. Despite their shifting views, no significant leads or evidence have emerged to provide clarity. The house where Brenda was last seen became a focal point early in the investigation, but no definitive answers were found there. The male friend who drove her to the location has not been publicly implicated, and no official suspects have been named. The rural nature of the area, combined with the delay in classifying her disappearance as suspicious, may have hindered early investigative efforts. As the years have passed, details have remained scarce, and her case has grown cold. Brenda's disappearance devastated her family, who have waited in silence for a resolution that has never come. Over the years, they have continued to hope that someone, somewhere, might remember something significant from that summer night in 1988. The mystery of what happened after she made that final phone call has led to numerous theories, but none that have yielded results. Today, Brenda remains listed as a missing person, and her case is unsolved. Though time has passed, Brenda's name is still remembered by those committed to finding answers. Her case is a stark reminder that even in quiet, close-knit communities, unsettling disappearances can occur, leaving families searching for the truth for a lifetime. The mystery of the Serapeum of Saqqara. The Serapeum of Saqqara is one of the most mysterious and perplexing sites in ancient Egypt. Discovered in 1850 by French archaeologist Auguste Mariette, this underground complex has defied clear explanation for over a century. Within its vast corridors lie 24 massive sarcophagi, each weighing between 70 and 100 tons, meticulously placed in individual chambers. While the mainstream theory suggests that the Serapeum served as a burial site for the sacred Apis bulls, several unresolved questions cast doubt on this interpretation. The construction, materials, and sheer size of the sarcophagi raise significant challenges to conventional explanations, leaving scholars and researchers puzzled about the true purpose of this ancient site. One of the most perplexing aspects of the Serapeum is the sheer scale of the sarcophagi. These enormous granite boxes far exceed the size required to house the remains of the Apis bulls. If these were indeed tombs, why were they built so much larger than necessary? This question becomes even more intriguing when considering the burial practices of Egyptian royalty. Pharaohs, who were regarded as divine rulers, were often buried in sarcophagi barely large enough to accommodate their bodies. The contrast between their burial arrangements and the vast boxes of the Serapeum suggests that these structures may have served a different function altogether. The choice of materials used in the construction of the sarcophagi also presents a significant mystery. The ancient Egyptians predominantly used limestone for their burial chambers, as it was readily available and easier to work with. However, the sarcophagi in the Serapeum were crafted from rose granite and even diorite, some of the hardest stones known to man. These materials were not only difficult to carve, but were also transported from quarries over 800 kilometers away. The logistical challenges of moving such massive stones across such distances in an era without modern machinery have left historians questioning how and why such an effort was undertaken. Adding to the mystery is the fact that several of the sarcophagi were found empty upon their discovery. Some lids were blown open using gunpowder in the 19th century, yet no remains were found inside. If the Serapeum was truly a burial site for the Apis bulls, why were there no mummified remains? Given that the Apis bulls were considered divine and highly revered, it is difficult to believe that their remains would have simply disappeared or been removed without leaving any trace. There is also the question of the precision with which these sarcophagi were crafted. Modern engineers and stonemasons have expressed astonishment at the level of accuracy in the stone-cutting techniques used to construct the boxes. The interiors of the sarcophagi are incredibly smooth, with angles that appear almost perfectly squared. Some researchers argue that such precision would be nearly impossible to achieve using the primitive tools that were available during ancient Egyptian times. This has led some to speculate that the Serapeum may have been built using advanced knowledge of mathematics and engineering that has since been lost to history. The tunnels of the Serapeum further complicate the mystery. These passageways, carved deep beneath the surface, were not mere tombs, but an extensive subterranean network. Their scale and complexity suggest they served a purpose beyond that of a simple burial site. Some alternative theories suggest that the Serapeum could have been a site of initiation for priests, a repository for sacred knowledge, or even a power storage facility based on unknown ancient technologies. While mainstream Egyptologists continue to support the Apis bull theory, skeptics argue that the lack of physical evidence and the anomalous nature of the site demand a more nuanced explanation. Some theorists have even ventured into the realm of alternative history, proposing that the Serapeum may be a remnant of a lost civilization with advanced technological capabilities. These theories remain speculative, but they highlight the deep fascination and mystery surrounding this ancient site. Despite extensive studies, the Serapeum of Saqqara remains one of the greatest archaeological mysteries of all time. The sheer magnitude of the sarcophagi, the mystery surrounding their function, and the advanced craftsmanship required for their construction all suggest that the site was of immense significance. Until new evidence emerges, the true purpose of the Serapeum will continue to elude historians, leaving it as one of the most intriguing and mysterious places in ancient Egypt. The mysterious geometric shapes surrounding the Richat structure. The Richat structure, also known as the Eye of the Sahara, is a remarkable and mysterious geological formation located in the Sahara Desert of Mauritania. Spanning approximately 45 kilometers or 28 miles in diameter, this circular structure has captivated scientists and enthusiasts alike. Recently, the advent of satellite technology and tools like Google Earth have allowed for a more detailed examination of this area, leading to the discovery of strange geometric shapes surrounding the Richat structure. The Richat structure was initially thought to be an impact crater due to its circular shape. However, subsequent studies have revealed that it is actually a highly eroded geologic dome. The structure is composed of concentric circles of sedimentary rock, uplifted by geological processes. The Eye of the Sahara has also been associated with various historical narratives. Some have speculated that it could be the location of the lost city of Atlantis, as described by Plato. While this theory remains controversial and widely debated, it adds an intriguing layer to the mystery of the Richat structure. The advent of Google Earth has revolutionized the way we explore our planet. This tool allows anyone with an internet connection to view high-resolution satellite images of virtually any location on Earth. Researchers and amateurs alike have used Google Earth to uncover previously unnoticed details in remote regions, including the area around the Richat structure. Users of Google Earth have identified several geometric shapes in the vicinity of the Richat structure. These shapes include perfect circles, straight lines, and rectangular formations that appear to be unnatural. The precision and alignment of these shapes suggest that they could be the remnants of human-made structures or other purposeful arrangements, rather than random geological formations. One of the most compelling theories is that these geometric shapes are remnants of ancient human settlements or constructions. The Sahara Desert was not always as arid as it is today. Thousands of years ago, it was a lush and fertile region, capable of supporting large populations. The geometric shapes could be the foundations of ancient buildings, roads, or other infrastructure built by civilizations long lost to history. Another theory posits that the geometric shapes may have been used for astronomical purposes. Ancient civilizations often built structures aligned with celestial bodies for calendrical or ritualistic reasons. The precise alignment of some of these shapes with cardinal directions and celestial events supports this hypothesis. They could have served as observatories, calendars, or places of worship aligned with the stars and planets. If the geometric shapes are indeed remnants of ancient human activity, they could significantly alter our understanding of prehistoric civilizations in the Sahara region. This discovery would suggest that advanced societies existed in the area, capable of building complex structures and possibly engaging in sophisticated astronomical practices. It would prompt a re-evaluation of the timeline and extent of human development in Africa. The study of the Richat structure and its surrounding anomalies also offers opportunities for advances in geological research. Understanding the formation and erosion processes that created the Eye of the Sahara and the geometric shapes could provide insights into similar geological formations around the world. It would help scientists better understand the dynamic processes that shape our planet's surface. Soldiers' mysterious encounter. Michael's battalion, composed of 5 soldiers from the United States, found themselves stationed at a strategic high point during the Afghanistan War. This location provided an unparalleled view of the surrounding terrain, making it a valuable post. However, it also became the stage for a series of chilling events that would leave an indelible mark on those who experienced them. The American soldiers were replacing an English unit that had completed their rotation, yet something about the departing soldiers unsettled them. Their faces bore an expression of exhaustion and fear, and their eagerness to leave seemed almost desperate. The soldiers settled into their new post, a rocky ledge with a small hut that would serve as their shelter. Alongside them was Barry, their well-trained military dog. The first night, Charlie took the first watch, accompanied by Barry. The silence of the night was almost oppressive, broken only by the occasional rustling of the wind against the trees. As Charlie scanned the area through his thermal goggles, he noticed a human-shaped heat signature near the tree line. The figure appeared to be staring directly at him. Switching to his rifle's scope, he saw nothing but darkness. Returning to the thermal view, the figure was suddenly closer. Panic gripped him as he fired his weapon, the sound of gunfire shattering the silence. The rest of the battalion awoke to find Charlie and Barry fixated on the same direction, but despite an extensive search, nothing was found. The following night, Michael took the watch. Equipped with his secure army radio, he suddenly began picking up an unusual frequency, an eerie transmission that sounded distinctly like Russian. He switched channels, yet the transmission persisted. As the clock neared 3 a.m, Michael felt an unshakable sensation of being watched. Turning in every direction, he saw nothing, yet the sound of footsteps seemed to follow him wherever he moved. By morning, his nerves were frayed, and he shared his unsettling experience with the others. In an attempt to distract themselves, the soldiers began digging around their post, only to make a disturbing discovery. Buried beneath the rocky soil were old bones and the remains of tattered Russian uniforms, likely from the Soviet-Afghan War decades earlier. The realization sent a shiver through the group. The British soldiers they had replaced had warned them about something unusual in the area, and now they began to understand why. That night, a new terror unfolded. The soldiers heard what they believed to be a helicopter approaching in the distance, though nothing appeared in the sky. Suddenly, a barrage of gunfire erupted, followed by explosions, the unmistakable sound of a battle raging around them. Convinced they were under attack, they leaped into the pit they had dug, bracing for the inevitable, but after several minutes, the chaos ceased as abruptly as it had begun. When they cautiously emerged, expecting to see destruction, the landscape was eerily undisturbed. No sign of gunfire, no fallen debris, only silence. Another soldier, visibly shaken, took watch the following night. At around 3 in the morning, he spotted a man in traditional Afghan attire near their post. Alarmed, he used his thermal goggles and was horrified to see multiple figures standing behind the lone man. Terror-stricken, he fired his weapon, sending the entire camp into a frenzy. Yet again, when they searched for evidence of intruders, they found nothing. Their grip on reality was beginning to slip, their paranoia escalating with each passing night. On their final night at the post, a newly arrived French soldier took the watch. As expected, the eerie silence was broken around 3 in the morning when his thermal goggles revealed a bright heat signature approaching. This time, he saw it more clearly. Shadowy figures surrounding the glowing mass, their forms shifting unnaturally. Panic overwhelmed him, and he fired his weapon wildly, awakening the entire squad. The soldiers scrambled in terror, firing into the darkness at an enemy they could not see. By dawn, they could take no more. The psychological toll had become unbearable. They requested immediate relocation, abandoning the post that had tormented them for days. Yet, leaving Afghanistan did not mean escaping the horror. One by one, the soldiers who had witnessed the strange events met mysterious and untimely deaths. Accidents, unexplained disappearances, and sudden illnesses claimed their lives, leaving Michael as the sole survivor. Even after returning home, Michael found no peace. He felt an unseen presence watching him, following him, waiting in the shadows. His nights were plagued with vivid nightmares, reliving the terror of those days. He could never shake the feeling that something had latched onto him, something beyond his understanding. The high point in Afghanistan remained a place of mystery and fear, a location where the past refused to be forgotten and the dead refused to remain silent. Soldier details chilling encounter. A soldier deployed as an infantry team leader with the US Army in Kunar Province, Afghanistan, from 2008 to 2009, experienced an encounter that would remain with him long after his service. One night, his unit set up an observation patrol to monitor a village suspected of being a source of improvised explosive devices. A few weeks prior, the unit had successfully recovered an IED in the area, making surveillance a high priority. His lieutenant issued him a new thermal imaging system called the Recon 3, a device unfamiliar to the team, and tasked him with learning its functionalities and passing that knowledge to the other team leaders. As he experimented with the Recon 3, he was impressed by the clarity of its zoom function. He spent most of his time adjusting its features and observing the village below. Eventually, his curiosity led him to scan the surrounding valley and the ridgeline on which his unit was positioned. It was then that he noticed a massive heat signature at the top of a false peak. Initially, he assumed it was a group of fighters gathered around a fire, a common sight in the mountains. However, as he attempted to refine the image, the heat signature stood up, revealing itself as a singular towering figure. The trees in that area of the valley typically reached heights of 10 to 12 feet, yet this being matched or exceeded them. As he continued to watch, the creature began moving parallel to his position, traversing the rugged terrain with remarkable ease. Its stride was slow and deliberate, yet its movements covered vast distances at an astonishing speed. The sheer size and agility of the being defied anything he had ever encountered, leaving him in disbelief. The soldier tracked the figure for as long as he could, but it quickly disappeared along a neighboring spur. Initially, he dismissed the sighting, convincing himself that his mind must have played tricks on him. The experience was so surreal that he chose to keep it to himself, hesitant to share an account that seemed implausible even to him. For years, he refrained from discussing it, believing there was no logical explanation for what he had witnessed. In 2010, however, everything changed. While listening to the radio show Coast to Coast AM, he heard a story about the so-called Giant of Kandahar, a massive humanoid allegedly encountered and engaged by US soldiers in Afghanistan. The description of that creature brought back memories of his own experience in Kunar, forcing him to reconsider the strange sighting he had tried so hard to forget. One detail in particular stood out to him. The Giant of Kandahar was described as having fire-orange hair, a characteristic that reminded him of a peculiar tradition among the local villagers. He recalled how the locals would periodically dye their hair bright orange, along with the fur of their goats. No explanation was ever given for this custom, and it was never a permanent change. Over time, the orange-dyed goats would vanish, and the villagers' hair would return to its natural color. At the time, he had dismissed it as an unfamiliar cultural practice, something he simply did not understand. However, in light of what he had seen, he began to wonder if there was a deeper meaning behind the ritual. The questions haunted him, but without further evidence, they remained unanswered. The encounter in Kunar remains one of the many unexplained mysteries reported by military personnel stationed in remote regions. The soldiers' reluctance to speak about the experience is understandable. Such claims are often met with skepticism. However, when considered alongside similar stories, his account adds to a growing body of anecdotal evidence suggesting that something extraordinary may exist in the rugged, isolated mountains of Afghanistan. Whether these beings are remnants of an ancient species, as some have speculated, or something even more mysterious, the truth remains elusive. However, for those who have encountered them, the experience is impossible to forget. The soldiers' sighting of the giant of Kunar remains an unsolved mystery, one that raises more questions than answers about what truly inhabits the remote corners of the world. The Giant of Kandahar. The mysterious encounter with the Giant of Kandahar remains one of the most chilling and controversial accounts ever reported from a military operation. According to reports, this alleged incident took place in 2002 in the rugged mountainous regions of Afghanistan, where American soldiers came face to face with an enormous, red-haired humanoid. Though no official record of the event exists, the testimony of a soldier who was supposedly part of the operation has kept the story alive, sparking intense debate among researchers and military enthusiasts. The story first surfaced through radio host and researcher Steve Quayle, who claimed to have received information from an unnamed military source. According to this account, a US Army squad had gone missing during a routine patrol in the remote desert regions of Kandahar. When communication with the unit was lost, a special operations task force was deployed to investigate their disappearance. After a difficult trek through the rugged terrain, the soldiers arrived at the mouth of a large cave. Scattered around the entrance were remnants of military gear and broken equipment, raising immediate concerns that something had gone terribly wrong. As the soldiers prepared to enter the cave, they were suddenly confronted by a terrifying figure that emerged from the darkness. Described as between 12 to 15 feet tall, with flaming red hair, 6 fingers on each hand, and a set of double rows of teeth, the giant appeared to be a monstrous humanoid unlike anything they had ever encountered. Before the soldiers could react, the creature launched an attack, wielding a massive spear. In a swift and brutal motion, it reportedly impaled one of the soldiers, identified only as Dan. Chaos erupted as the squad opened fire, unleashing a relentless barrage of gunfire on the giant. According to the soldiers' testimony, the creature withstood their combined firepower for approximately 30 seconds before finally collapsing. The team, armed with M4 carbines, semi-automatic rifles, and .50 caliber sniper rifles, was shocked at the resilience of their opponent. Even with weapons powerful enough to penetrate armored vehicles, it took a prolonged and intense assault to bring the creature down. Once the giant was neutralized, the soldiers examined its body and noted its horrific odor, which was said to resemble rotting flesh. Realizing the magnitude of their discovery, the military unit radioed for assistance. Shortly after, a helicopter arrived and airlifted the giant's body using a heavy-duty net. The creature was then transported to an undisclosed military base before being loaded onto an aircraft, never to be seen again. No official statements were made regarding the operation, and the soldiers involved were allegedly sworn to secrecy. Each member of the task force was reportedly forced to sign non-disclosure agreements, preventing them from speaking publicly about what they had encountered in the mountains of Afghanistan. Despite the lack of official confirmation, the story of the Giant of Kandahar has captivated the imaginations of many. Some military researchers suggest that this could be evidence of a surviving species of ancient humanoids, possibly linked to the Nephilim mentioned in biblical texts. Others argue that the entire story is a fabrication, a legend born from the stresses of combat and the isolated, mysterious terrain of Afghanistan. Skeptics point to the lack of physical evidence, official reports, or corroborating testimonies from additional sources. Still, those who believe in the authenticity of the event argue that the military would have every reason to suppress such a discovery. The implications of an encounter with a giant humanoid would be staggering, challenging everything we know about human history, evolution, and the possibility of ancient beings that once roamed the Earth. If such entities exist, questions arise about how they have remained hidden for so long and whether more encounters like this have been covered up. The mystery of the Giant of Kandahar continues to intrigue and divide those who hear the tale. The mysterious Lake Van monster. The Lake Van monster is a creature said to inhabit Lake Van, the largest lake in Turkey, located in the eastern part of the country near Mount Ararat. Descriptions of the creature suggest a resemblance to ancient marine reptiles, particularly a plesiosaur, a comparison frequently drawn with the more famous Loch Ness monster. Although the most well-documented sightings of the Lake Van monster occurred between 1995 and 1997, accounts of an unusual creature in the lake date back to at least 1889. Over 1,000 eyewitnesses have reported seeing the monster, adding to the mystery that continues to surround it. The first documented sighting of the Lake Van monster appeared in an Ottoman-era newspaper in 1889. According to the report, 3 men were traveling along the lake from Tatvan to Alat when they set up camp near the water. As one of the men washed his hands in the lake, a massive creature suddenly emerged and grabbed him by the leg. His companions attempted to pull him free, but the creature was too strong. Desperate to save their friend, they used burning wood from their campfire to strike the beast. The creature let out an agonizing scream before retreating into the depths of the lake, taking the unfortunate man with it. His body was never found, leaving behind only the horrifying testimony of the 2 survivors. Another sighting followed in 1890, when a newspaper once again reported an encounter with the Lake Van monster. This time, witnesses described it as a cream-colored, winged, dragon-like creature. Such reports suggest that stories of a large, mysterious being living in the lake were already well known by the late 19th century. Some researchers believe that artistic depictions on Akdamar Island, located in Lake Van, may offer even earlier references to the monster. The island is home to the Armenian Akdamar Church, built in 1950 AD. On its outer walls, intricate stone carvings depict biblical and mythological scenes, including one image that appears to show a large sea creature beneath a ship. Many speculate that this carving represents the Lake Van monster, suggesting that belief in its existence may stretch back over 1,000 years. Interest in the Lake Van monster surged in the 1990s when multiple witnesses reported seeing the creature, and its story gained international attention. One of the most well-known pieces of evidence came in 1997, when a 26-year-old Van University teaching assistant named Unal Kozak captured a short video that allegedly shows the Lake Van monster. The film, which appears to show a large moving object in the lake, became a source of great controversy. Some claim to see a beak, while others suggest the footage simply shows a swimming elephant, even though elephants are not found in the region. Skeptics dismiss the video entirely, arguing that it depicts garbage bags being dragged through the water. Despite the debate, the footage aired on news outlets later that year, fueling further curiosity and speculation about the creature's existence. The mystery deepened when biologists and experts weighed in on the possibility of such a creature living in Lake Van. Skeptics argue that the Lake Van monster could be the result of misidentifications, hoaxes, or natural phenomena. The lake's unique water conditions, combined with lighting and weather effects, might create illusions that make ordinary objects appear mysterious or monstrous. To this day, the Lake Van monster remains an enduring mystery. Despite modern technology and extensive studies of the lake, no definitive proof of the creature's existence has been found. Nevertheless, stories of the monster continue to fascinate those intrigued by unexplained phenomena. Whether the creature is a long-lost species, a misidentified natural occurrence, or simply a product of legend, the Lake Van monster remains an integral part of local folklore and history.